As human beings, we are wired for progression, for new experiences, to move forward. And yet, why is it so hard sometimes when we pick a new goal that we've never achieved before? Why is it so hard to get that goal? I want you to all to think about a goal that maybe you've had in the past that was a stretch, and whether you got that goal or not when you thought when you went to achieve that goal. I'm going to share with you 4 functions of the brain that when you work with them rather than against them will help you get your goal with greater clarity, with greater ease, and a lot more joy. So I'm going to draw a little Pictionary picture for you. This is us. The first function of the brain that I'm going to talk about is the ability to see. So when you've had a goal in your mind, how clear was it in your mind? A lot of people that I talk to, a lot of my clients and others, they have a goal and they have a couple of the details figured out, and then the rest of it is kind of fuzzy. And so what I teach my clients to do, and what I'm going to offer for us today, is to create a movie clip about your goal, about you receiving your goal, not necessarily the journey to get there, but you actually getting the goal. Now, what we need to do when we are creating this movie in our mind is to think of the senses. That's one of the easiest things to do first. So once you've determined what that goal is, think about receiving it. Are you receiving it in this little movie clip? Usually the movie clips that I make for myself are about 10 to 20 seconds long. And that doesn't sound like very long, but when you're actually doing it, and this is a goal you've never gotten before, that can feel like a long time. Because you're creating something that has not been created before. You're creating something brand new, a brand new experience. So are there people there in your video clip? While you're getting your goal, are there people there? Or are you alone? And who is there if there are people there? Are you inside or are you outside? What are your surroundings? Where are you? Is it loud or is it quiet? Is your video in color? Most people's are not. When they start, they're not in color. So I would encourage you to give it color. What are the colors when you see it? A lot of people start in black and white. Even though we don't see in black and white, that's how they see their goal, is in black and white. They don't see it very clearly. It's kind of ambiguous. What is the temperature like? Is it, what season are you in? Are you in winter when you get your goal? Are you in the summer when you get your goal? What is it like? What is the temperature like? How does it physically feel to your body that day that you get your goal? So having a video of your goal, now that you have all your senses figured out of what you're going to, how you're going to create this in your mind. Now this is a creation that you create first. Everything is created emotionally, spiritually before it's created physically. So that's what you're doing here. It's a mental effort. As you're going through your video clip in your mind, does it play like a DVD that's scratched, where it pauses and then jumps and doesn't have any smooth transitions, or is it flowing? For a lot of people, it's jumpy, it's choppy. They see this, then they see this, then they see this. Or they just see one thing and they don't see much detail around it. So that's the first thing, is create a little video for yourself of actually receiving the goal. The next thing is what you say. Our words are super powerful. Our words can either build a person or they can destroy a person, including ourselves and including our goal. So I'm surprised at how many people, they go to great lengths to create an amazing, beautiful picture. They've painted a beautiful picture in their mind of their goal, of receiving their goal. And then they talk about how they're not sure they're going to get it. Or they'll talk about all the obstacles that are getting in their way. They'll talk about their doubt to their doubt of their capacity, their doubt of, oh, maybe this is too big of a goal for me. Possibly maybe they tell other people about their goal who may be in being well-meaning, but may introduce some other doubt that they didn't think about. And so they run this in their mind. So what you say inside your mind and also to other people about your goal says a lot about what you actually think about your goal. And you think about your identity, yourself, your own capacity to achieve it. So one thing that I do is I create what's called a new story. So I'm going to give you an example of a new story, something that I did. I became pregnant with our last child, who was a complete surprise, 7 years after our 4 were here. And with my children, they were all colicky for the first, what, Mom, 8 to 12 months. They screamed all the time. And it was a very stressful experience for me. And I didn't want to go backwards. And I felt like every time I had a baby, I kind of went backwards and retreated a little bit in my personal development. And I really desired to keep moving forward. And so I had the thought, create a new story for this, Shelly. I'm like, oh, I can do that? So I did. So I had this impression, create how you desire it to be, and it will be. I'm like, whoa, okay. I will really put this to the test with something that I have experienced 4 colicky babies. I don't know how I can believe that this one can be different. So I wrote how the experience is with my little sister, who when her babies ate, they burped by just gradually raising them up like this, and they would just burp by themselves. And that was completely different for me because I would burp my kids for an hour or 2, sometimes in the middle of the night. Every night, actually. And so this was a huge test of faith for me to envision them burping on their own. I had never experienced it. I'd only seen it in my little sister's kids and wondered, how did they do that? So I wrote that in my new story and I read it to myself every day, sometimes aloud, because when you read things aloud, you tend to believe your own voice most. And so reading things aloud, it actually gets into your brain more. You start to believe it. You start to, when you have a new story, you start to actually live it now. It becomes real for you today, even though it hasn't happened yet. Your brain accepts it as truth. So that's what happened. I had my baby and my mom actually came over and was starting to burp her. And I said, actually, you don't have to do that. Watch this. And I raised her up and she burped. And we were all cheering. Nobody knows what how significant that was, except us. So writing a new story completely supports the visual, the movie that you've created in your mind for receiving this goal. Now, what this does is having these 2 things in place, your visual and your story, it creates feelings. It creates how you feel inside, and the feeling is the fuel. That is the power that you have to move forward. We base most of our decisions on our feelings. Our feelings come from our thoughts. So the feelings really drive us a lot. So being in charge of these 2 things helps the feelings be in a good spot rather than a doubtful spot. And then the last one is where most people start, but where I end is in the actions. When I create a new goal, I don't go right into actions. I do this prep work first. That leads me to inspired actions. And so what I do is I ask every day, I say, is there something I can do today? Just today, I'm not thinking about the future, not regretting the past, just today that I can do that will help me get my goal. And I go one day at a time. And that is how I use the 4 functions of the brain to get goals. And I hope this has been helpful for you too. Thank you very much.